Hi there! Today, I will be presenting about indigenous peoples and indigenous cultural communities. So, who are the indigenous peoples? Do you have any idea? Officially, the indigenous peoples and communities are identified by Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, or popularly known as IPRA. The law was passed in Congress and was signed by the late President Fidel V. Ramos on October of 1997. Okay, under Section 3H of the law, indigenous peoples and indigenous cultural communities refer to a group of people or homogeneous societies identified by, first, self-ascription and ascription of others. When we say ascription, it pertains to a certain characteristics associated to a person, places, or things. Self-ascription means that the claim of the people themselves on who they are, and ascription of others means how others or how we recognize them as such. Next, who have continuously lived as organized community on communally bounded and defined territory. The definition of boundaries here, according to the IPs, differs on how we view territories. In our case, we measure boundaries by meters, kilometers, or hectares. However, IPs measure things by natural characteristics or what is the landmark they could easily recognize, like rivers, trees, or rocks defining their limits of the territories. Next, who have under claim of ownership since time immemorial, occupied, possessed, and utilized such territories. This part refers to the claim of the territories as far as they can remember. These usually are knowledge or information that are handed down from generation to generations through oral traditions. Since most IPs does not have any written records, they have to keep faith on how they heard it or it was handed down to them by their forefathers. Still on the definition of IPs, according to IPRA, we have sharing common bonds of language, customs, traditions, and other distinctive cultural traits. Next, who have true resistance to political, social, and cultural inroads of colonization, non-indigenous religions and culture, became historically differentiated from the majority of the Filipinos. Next, who have regarded as indigenous on the account of their descent from the population which inhabited the country. To cut it short. And the last paragraph would be, who may have been displaced from their traditional domains or who may have resettled outside of their ancestral domains. So, when you say indigenous account by their descent means there are IPs who look very similar to the mainstream population, but still subscribe to the culture of their forefathers, which is different from the traditions and practices of prevailing mainstream society. So later on, you would see on the pictures that I'll be showing, pictures of indigenous people that I'll be showing at the end of the presentation, that there are some IPs who would be easily mistaken for part of the mainstream society and are not indigenous by their looks. However, their subscription to their forefathers' practices and tradition identify them as IPs. Okay? And then on the displacement of IPs, displaced IIPs are also recognized by the law. There are ICCs who were uprooted from their domain either by natural or man-made circumstances. A good example of displaced IPs by natural calamities are some Aitas in Zambales mountain range. Because of the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, they were forced to flee their domain. On the other hand, the displacement of Lumads, which is the collective terms for IPs in Mindanao, is caused by the conflicts between rebels and government forces. So this is a man-made disaster. Although living away from their ancestral domain, their title and claim is not given up and more so protected by the law. So we go with the spirit of IPRA of 1997. So it is an official act that intends to protect and promote the rights and welfare of the indigenous peoples or indigenous cultural communities. It's a milestone in Philippine history which would correct historical injustice committed against them, realize constitutional mandates as provided in Article 2, Section 22 of our Constitution, and adhere to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The law also mandates the creation of the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples or NCIP. It functions as the primary government agency responsible for the formulation and implementation of policies, plans, and programs to promote and protect the rights and well-being of the ICCs and or IPs, and the recognition of their ancestral domains as well as the rights thereto. According to Section 38 of IPRA, the NCIP is vested with the following powers. Administrative powers, which is to manage and create programs in behalf of IPs. Quasi-legislative power. This is to issue policies and guidelines in furtherance of IPRA. And quasi-judicial powers, meaning the NCIP has the legal capacity to decide on issues involving IPs, especially related to their ancestral domain, which could be appealed in the regular courts. Now we have the rights of IPs or ICCs under the law. So rights to ancestral lands and domain, which includes the right to claim ownership over lands, bodies of waters, traditionally and actually occupied by ICCs or IPs. And then, right to develop lands and natural resources within their domains. Next, right to stay in their territories. And then, right in case of displacement. And then, the right to regulate entry of migrants into their territories. And then, right to safe and clean air and water. Still, under the rights to ancestral lands and domains, we have rights to claim parts of reservations. So there are certain territories which were declared as reservations, just like forest reservations or conservations, which the IPs could still claim as long as they could prove that it's part of their heritage as a cultural group or indigenous peoples group. And then the right to resolve conflict. So this is a case where later on we will identify under political rights that they could settle conflicts within their customary laws without the intervention of the outsiders. And then rights to transfer land property to or among members of the same ICs or IPs subject to customary laws. Okay? And the right to redemption within a period not exceeding 15 years from the date of transfer. So this part of the law is provided in cases that certain part of their domain or territories was ceded or sold, especially when there is fraudulent transactions. They are given by the law 15 years to recover what they have given, transferred, or sold to anyone or any group, especially if those person or groups are not part of their communities, meaning they are outsiders. Another set of rights of IPs under IPRA is the right to self-governance and empowerment. So under this we have self-governance and self-determination, support for autonomous regions, justice system, conflict resolution institutions, and peace-building process, rights to participate in decision-making, rights to determine and decide priorities for development, rights to form or constitute a tribal barangays in accordance with the local government code. So, these rights, this set of rights would pertain to empowering IPs and their communities to come up with their or sustain their traditional way of resolving conflicts, establishing order, peace and order, achieving justice according to their uh, perception as indigenous communities, okay? And of course, to determine what is best for them, thus they have now given the opportunity to decide what priorities they should have for their development as a people. The third set of rights that IPs enjoy under IPRA is the right to social justice and human rights. So under this, we have equal protection and non-discrimination of ICCs or IPs. Next, right during armed conflict. And then we have justice system, conflict resolution institutions, and peace building process. And then we have freedom from discrimination and right to equal opportunity treatment. So this set of rights would assure IPs that they'll be protected from discrimination and marginalization that they have been experiencing for the past centuries. Continuing with the rights to social justice and human rights, we have the following rights. Rights to basic services, the right to special measure for the immediate, effective, and continuing improvement of their economic and social conditions. And then, rights of IP women. And then, rights of IP children and youth. Still, under the rights to social justice and human rights, we have protection of indigenous culture, traditions, and institutions, educational systems, recognition of cultural diversity, community intellectual rights, rights to religious, cultural sites, and ceremonies. Still, we have rights to indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices, and to develop own sciences and technologies. Then, we have the rights to sustainable agro-technical development and funds for archaeological and historical sites for management and preservations.